I had that one. I already did. It was really good. We'll see. I gave myself a 5, but I don't know if I gave it that much.
That's pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So should we put back on the burn ban? We've got all this grass
Yeah.
and dry conditions.
Tell you what, I did see a couple pretty doggone good fires here this past week. I think they were, I don't know if they were burning sloughs off or if they were burning old bales or something, but I was a couple miles away from the one and I could see the flames. So it was a good fire. Perfect time to do it. 9 o'clock? Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is 9 a.m. Tuesday, December 18th. It's time for our weekly Cottington County Board of Commission weekly meeting. We'll open the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. And Luke, would you lead us with the pledge? You're already up.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Luke. Your timing is perfect. Speaking of timing, it is Christmas right around the corner, and if anyone hasn't participated in a Christmas program yet, I would certainly encourage you to get out and enjoy these things. I've attended my third one last night. It was the orchestra and choir up at the high school, and they always do just a great job. And it's just wonderful to see these young people. You know, we hear all of the bad things about the young people, and we sit here and we deal with the courts and delinquents and all of this stuff. And in reality, we've got many, many very, very prominent young men and women that are doing a wonderful job out there. So get out and enjoy what they've done. I certainly kind of put you in the Christmas spirit, and that's what we need. That being said, a couple of housekeeping chores. If you have a cell phone, please turn it off or silence it. If you have a call you need to take it out in the rotunda so you don't disrupt the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address the board on an item that is not on the agenda? Seeing none, is there any member of the board that has a conflict of interest of any of the items that is on the agenda? Seeing none, then
Make
I
a
will
motion to approve the
I have
agenda.
a motion by Hatton to
Second.
approve the agenda. A second by Van Duzen. Discussion, I will ask for an exec session at the end for, in two areas. One is for a personnel issue and the other one is contract negotiations, which would be number 4 and number 1.
Will there be any results after exec or?
There possibly could be.
It's not on the agenda, then.
Yeah, it's not on the agenda, so we know there wouldn't be then.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
All right, let's approve the minutes of the
Move
December
to
11th.
approve as emailed, but did we vote on the agenda?
Did we vote
Yes,
on
we
it?
did. Oh, I
I
thought
don't
we
think
did.
we did.
All in favor
We-
indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign,
And then
motion
I'll make a
carries. That's
motion
on the
to approve the
agenda.
minutes.
Have a
Second.
motion by Hatton to approve the minutes of the December 11th meeting. Motion by Hatton, second by Van Duzen. Any discussion on the minutes?
Gable.
Got it? I have to slow down here for, she does a wonderful job. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries.
Something else, Mr. Chair, we maybe didn't mention about streaming. Did you want to mention about streaming the meeting?
Oh yeah, the meeting is being streamed live, so if you do address the board, you will be being streamed live. Just a heads up so that you know that this is happening. Let's go on to monthly meetings. Facility manager is Milo. Milo is not here, but he has in front of you in your packet, he sent us a written report, and I don't need to read it to you. Just a couple of things here. I'll just buzz through it. Memorial Park, this is the last week that they are open, and the part-time staff that they have out at that park will be released at the end of the week. He has located a golf cart to purchase. I think everybody got probably his email that he sent out in reference to some suggestions as to what he could do or should do. I know I favored the golf cart. I indicated I have two of them, and sometimes I could use the third one. They're pretty handy. They're doing some work in the basement of the house out there at the park. They found a couple places with some mold in it, but they have it pretty well corrected. Out at the Ag building, they're preparing for the farm show. They had an issue with the internet, and Connecting Point is out there correcting that as we speak. The courthouse remodel continues, and I'm sure that Commissioner Gable will bring us up to date on that. I did do a walk around a little bit yesterday, and the only thing I heard was the lights are on, and they're on all the time. They won't go off. It's just, I said, well, that's better than not going on at all. But there's some kind of a sensor or something
It's
that
probably the switch, the switch is probably not.
that
set up
they're
yet.
going to correct. But in reality, they're on all night. So if you've driven by and saw the lights on, that's what's going on. They are dropping the ceiling in. Well, Commissioner Gable will bring us up to snuff on that. The detention center, things are holding together okay. According to Milo, we're currently looking at constructing a new restroom for the staff to conduct testing. Brad will fill us in on that project as it progresses. The generator is still running, which is good. And then that last paragraph, that's why I asked the executive session. I'll share with you some ideas or some thoughts there. All right, that's Milo's report. Thank you, Milo. He does have a pretty good written report. All right, let's go on to Highway Superintendent. Rick. Good morning, Rick.
Good morning.
The boys are hauling sand this morning. I got 6 or 7 of them on my way in this morning, heading north to get sand.
Morning, Rick.
On haul gravel.
Oh, going to haul gravel. Oh,
Yep. Yeah, we didn't send any sand trucks out this morning.
no. I thought you were stockpiling sand. But no, you're hauling gravel.
So we're placing it on the roads north of your place, back to the west.
Okay.
It's on Road 44, where
Yep.
we're at today, so.
Rick, you want to turn that mic on there? There you go. Thank you.
There. On the 26th of November, I placed an order for rock for the project on 7-5 Willow Creek that is washed into the right-of-way. And Fisher Sand and Gravel out of Millbank, they quoted me $12 a ton. They were about $4 cheaper than everywhere else. So I ordered 300 ton. I wound up with like 290. They were just a little short, which wasn't a huge deal because we don't know exactly how many ton we're going to need for that project this spring.
Now, that's not delivered. Is that delivered?
No.
I didn't think it was delivered.
No, but Clausen and Sons Construction, they quoted us $8 a ton to have it delivered. So it's $20 a ton, but they were quite a bit cheaper than everybody else. And the final bill was $5,806.60.
Actually, I thought it'd be more than that.
Yeah, when I called a few other places, they were quite a bit higher. And had no problem with Fisher Sand and Gravel. He got a hold of Clausen's and they showed up and hauled it all in one day, so it's sitting in our yard right now. I have a new hire request to fill a position that was opened up when Lynn Solberg moved up to the assistant superintendent position. I propose hiring Mitch Kulhoff. I did interviews and stuff the last few weeks. So
We'll wait till we do them all together, okay?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Like Myron said, we're out graveling when we can. Luckily, the snow quit for a little while. So when we're not graveling, we're either plowing snow or sanding. And I sent a letter for the damage that was done to County Road 20-3 to the people that were involved. I had one person reply that they weren't gonna pay, but I haven't heard anything from the other ones yet. We've been out sanding and plowing snow 3 times. On December 2nd, I sent 3 motor graders out. The eastern part of the county was worse than the western part. The western part didn't hardly receive anything. But we had to send 3 motor graders out because there was a few places it was in the sheltered areas, it was deep. And the way the wind was blowing, the trucks wouldn't have been able to keep it off. So I just had the motor graders out, run over it once and go back to their shops because that was a Sunday morning. We've had some truck issues. We had to replace a differential in one of the trucks, but it's got 178,000 miles on it. So one of those deals that back on the road again. On the 11th of December, I met with Brian Rinker from Yule Tag, and I had Beth Niemeyer from Banner and Associates, and we went around and toured the spots for the wind tower approaches on our county roads. I think there was like 45 or 46 spots, and we discussed if they needed to be moved and all that stuff. And there was a few of them that needed to be, because of hills, other approaches, wetlands, stuff like that. And so Brian Rinker takes that back to NextEra to have those adjusted. And tonight, there's a township meeting with Brittany Bruce from NextEra in Leola Township. And I don't know if she sent you guys emails. I gave her your emails and stuff. She wanted to know if any of you guys were going to attend. She'd like me to attend, so I'm going to go to that. And there's one in Waverly tomorrow night. I'm going to go to that. And then I'm not sure. I think Wednesday there's.
What's the purpose of the meetings?
To inform the people on what's going to happen when they start. So.
I don't believe I got that email.
And I don't know if she was going to send it to everybody.
Okay.
So, because I
Now,
gave her.
I did get a request from Towns and Townships Association in reference to haul road agreement with the wind people, and I talked to Luke yesterday, and his suggestion is, and this is what I will suggest to them, is they contact Altap and Brookings, and so that they have a template, and that all the townships would basically follow the same haul road agreements. And that way, when they go from one township to the other, there's a different haul road agreement. So they all, on the same page anyway. But Luke thought that would be the place where that should come from.
Yep.
And then we wouldn't be dictating. There wouldn't be any county township conflict there. It comes from outside sources. Luke is sitting right there.
Yeah, the main thing, we obviously would make our copy of, what we have available to them, but it would make as much sense as any for LTAP to help them out as well. I know that they've got a model for every sort of a use, but we're aware that these are kind of unique situations where, as Commission, you're aware, it was 25, 27 pages. And let's be honest with ourselves, a lot of the folks that are on township boards aren't going to have time to be able to wade through 25, 27 pages like we did. The county is a long time.
And I think, well, I'm pretty certain that Leola Township use the same road, haul road agreement as what the county did. I suppose they just changed some of their things in there, but I know they used it as a template as well. So,
Yeah, and I,
after our
Example.
last one,
There's an example of, I'm not saying it's right or wrong or whatever, but where Leola Township does one thing and everybody else does something else, then we got a mess, you know? That's why I just soon see everybody use the same template and
Yep.
use the same haul road. So if anybody asks you any questions, steer them in that direction.
I believe though Leola's had to be done and completed. I mean, the rest of these are just probably coming around now because that would be the Crown Ridge where theirs had to be completed long before some of these other ones, so.
yep, and I,
Anyway.
go ahead.
No, I'm done.
I gave the haul road agreement that we had with Apex to Rawville Township, so they could look that over. And, also I gave that to, NextEra, and they looked it over, and yesterday she brought me the $2,550 that, L'Oreal, I don't know if she turned that into you yesterday or if she's giving it to you today.
I haven't seen it yet.
She'll probably give it to you today, but she gave me 2 checks for, it was half for each one. I think that was for, because they have 2 different, there's Crown Ridge 1, Crown Ridge 2, and I think that's the way that played out, so, but she gave me the checks yesterday.
That was on the expense from Banner, correct?
Yes, yep.
Good.
There's a monitoring system on the 3 trucks that we bought a few years ago that's about to run out, that sends emails to me if something, a code comes up in the trucks that we have no way of knowing what it is. And if you do a 3-year plan, it's $120 per truck per month. So the 3-year plan would be roughly $12,960. Because it can tell me if the truck needs to be shut down or if they can just keep going if it's something minor. Because when it sends, I've got a list here of stuff that most of it was, what they can tell you if it's minor or not. Because when they get it, it just has like dock pressure and stuff like that. But they would email me to tell me if the truck needed to be shut down, if we needed to have some kind of service done on it. Where we do not have the testing equipment, we have to take the truck somewhere to have anything done to it, because everything is so electronic driven that the cost of what it would be to buy the equipment, if you don't have an issue, you have all this stuff sitting there.
So is this like a third-party module that goes into these
Yep.
trucks then?
Yeah,
And-
it's already in the truck.
Okay, and is it an automatic thing if a code is read that it automatically
Yep.
emails you? So nobody's
Yeah.
monitoring those?
Well,
it's
see,
just-
it depends on what it is. If it's something minor, I won't get an email. If it's something major, it goes to another person and they look at it.
Okay,
And then they send it
so
to
it is
me.
monitored?
Yeah,
Okay.
to see if it has to be shut down or
Mm-hmm.
the truck can keep going, because a lot of times you just have a little light on the dash and you have no idea what that is.
Right.
So,
What did you say was the subscription for that?
It's 120 per truck per year.
yeah,
Per month.
that's if you go a 3-year plan.
Okay, so
It's
you-
133 if you go 1 year at a time.
Okay, so you save a little bit.
And
the total
obviously, what was the contract before? Was it the 3-year?
It came with the truck.
Oh, okay.
Yep,
And how many trucks are we talking?
3.
3, okay.
$12,960
For 3 years.
Yep.
for 3 years. You, by any chances, have that in the budget?
That is not in the budget, so that would be
When is this up, Rick?
the end of this month. One of the trucks has already run out, but that's our distributor truck, and it only runs a few months in the summertime. So that one I wasn't too worried about. So, 'cause that one was bought, little before the other two were bought. So,
How's this budget
Well, this would be a maintenance, it'd be a
For
maintenance.
next year?
for this year?
Well, we've paid bills already for this year. It is something that could be run through on the last meeting of this year, though. There is plenty of budgeted funds
okay.
in 2018. And if you want to, we can run it through on the 27th.
All right.
There's, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Plenty of funds available in
In
this year's budget?
Yep.
Okay.
We have a couple of claims that we are approving on the 27th. Another construction payment. There were a couple of big bills that came through that it's in the best interest of the county to pay those in out of the 2018 budget. So we do have a few that we're running through.
Yeah, because like the differential on that truck that we had to do, that was a $4,000 hit, you know, so,
And now, is that something that would have been flagged with the system that you're talking about?
no,
This is more on the electronic sort of
yeah.
monitors and,
You have a maintenance budget line, so this would come out of that, I would think. Or did you have a separate budget line for?
That I'm
this
not
particular
sure
one?
on.
No, it would just be a type of maintenance contract or something. It would come under maintenance.
can we vote on this today, or does it have to be put on since it wasn't on the agenda, or what?
Well, it would
Good
just come
stuff.
through with claims on the 27th.
Okay.
Yeah. If you have no objection to Rick preparing it for that meeting, then you would approve it on
What's the
the
consensus of the
27th.
Rick,
board?
how many trucks do you have, or how many will you be putting this on?
3, there used to be 3.
And are those your main trucks?
Yeah, except for the one. The one is our distributor truck that we use in the summertime when we're shooting chip seal. And that's pretty crucial to have that on there when we're doing that, because that's the only truck can do that, so.
There are plenty of funds in your repair and maintenance budget to take it out of there, or your other current expenditures, either one. There's plenty of funds.
Well, basically, if we don't do this, we need to purchase some equipment in order for you to be able to be monitoring
And
them.
I have no idea what the equipment would cost,
Yeah.
but that's something that you let the people that sell the trucks
Right.
handle.
No, I was
So it's
just saying.
basically your recommendation to,
Yes.
Yes.
to purchase, okay.
Is that all right with the board? And I think we all understand, I know this week I got a text message that I needed to change oil on a car. You know, it's amazing how that is nowadays. Or the other day I got a text message that my left front tire was down 1 pound. But it's amazing how that stuff works, but
Yep.
it does make a difference. Tires last longer because you're more aware of what's going on.
1976 Ford Fiesta. A 76 Ford Fiesta doesn't send those text
Oh, something
messages
that's
to
Ford
me.
Fiesta.
You have to go out and kick them yet, right?
Yeah, I still have to check it manually.
You know,
Like get some
All right, so it's agreeable that we will go ahead with that. So
Okay.
get the information to Cindy.
all right.
All right?
And that's about all I have.
Thanks.
Anything else for Rick?
Thanks, Rick.
Keep the nice weather coming.
Yes, thank you.
We'll
Thank
try.
you.
Roads are slick this morning. I appreciate the work you guys are doing and getting them slowed down
Yep.
a little bit.
All right, let's go to number 6. This is the review and authorization act to approve the 2019 Memorial Park Campground Manager's Contract. You have that in front of you.
They all
Uh,
have that.
I did review it, and I did review it as well with Milo. And the only thing that is any different than the last ones is the numbers.
Yeah, the
Otherwise-
contract was prepared with the 2% increase that was allotted to all of their employees. The Fords have chosen, if approved, to have their payments made monthly. So we've taken the amount of the contract, divided it by 12 months. Otherwise, there is nothing.
It's the same as last
Different,
year.
yep.
Last year, it's-
Yep.
yeah. And I did make certain that that is where we were at, and everything seems to be going all right. The only comment that Milo made, he was just inquiring, and he had inquired with Terry that questioned whether that position should be also have a step. You know, it doesn't have a step, does it?
No.
And,
This
It's never been part of the payroll resolution.
and that's what
Nope.
Terry,
Because it's more of a seasonal
well, he said it's a
contract, so-
non-negotiated contract. So, and, our negotiated contract, it's a negotiated contract.
Okay, right.
It's a negotiated contract.
Yes, yes.
And Milo said, I don't ever remember negotiating it. Well, we're negotiating it right now. We're not, it's good the way it was, right? Anyway, you have it in front of you. Have you had a chance to look it over? Any questions about that contract?
It has been reviewed by Terry Satterley.
Yep.
And I believe the treasurer also helped in the preparation.
I make a motion
I
that
have
we
a motion
approve
by
this
Hatton to
contract.
approve the contract
I'll
as
second
written,
that.
and a second by Van Duzen. Any other questions? Any more questions? Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Let's go on to 7. Now, this is the first district. This is kind of a new deal here. Actually, we've got number 7, which is to approve a letter of agreement with First District Association for zoning and drainage service. The number 8 is for property parcel update needs. And then number 9 is for development of
And
hosting.
these are all contracts that we already have. These are just renewals.
Yeah.
Yep, and so we'll take them one at a time.
Yep.
And that way we'll be certain that Luke can give us his spiel.
Sure. The only thing new about these is that we got everything coordinated and got them all in front of you on the same day. In here, the first part, the first contract is the one that I will be humbly requesting to continue service as the zoning officer for Cottington County. Been doing so since I started 10 years ago. Before that, Todd Kays had been doing it for, I believe, 5 years, 2004 to 2008. And so this would be the contract for 2019. I will point out we did budget for an increase from $45 to $48 an hour is the rate there when we did that budget amounted to, from the last time, if you average that out, from the last time we had an increase, that amounts to right around just a touch over 1% annual from the last time we did it to now. We just hadn't been doing any increases in the past. And so, or since in the last, I think it was 4 years. So the rest of it, all the services, time frame, amount of time that we spend there, all of it remains the same. It notes federal mileage, just has an estimate for what it is now, but obviously that fluctuates depending on what federal mileage rate is. We enjoy having this contract and working with the county. Hope to continue doing so.
I would make the motion, and it was also by the Planning and Zoning Board yesterday. They all also voted to keep Luke on as the zoning officer, and all the help that and the hours that he puts in and prepares for those meetings. That would be not so much fun if we had to do that ourselves.
So, your motion is
To approve that.
approve number 7.
Yes.
First District Association of Zoning and Drainage Services. And we have a second by Commissioner Gable. Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, then let's take number 8, action to approve a letter of agreement with First District for property parcel update needs. I'll entertain a motion.
Go ahead.
Harley, motion by Harley,
Second.
second by Van Duzen. Discussion. Luke, you want to just,
I'll quickly, this is a department I don't do as much with, but this is the maintenance of the splits as sales transfers come in. It's one of those things that mention splits, and not everyone knows what that means. It basically, when the property sells and there's a change in legal description, to make sure that those are mapped so that we can show where this is, and then it helps out the ability in the long run to be able to calculate what the avoid having to count dots when they're assessing property, and do it that way for that. So it's using the be able to split property accurately.
and this is the same contract as we've had in the past. This is just a renewal. I entertain a motion. I have a motion.
Motion and a second.
Yeah. Any more discussion? Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Let's do number 9 then. Or did I?
That is the GIS.
Yeah, the GIS, yeah.
Posting of the GIS website. This is the same amount as in previous years. No change to that. The cost is shared between the City of Watertown, Focus Watertown, Watertown Municipal Utilities, and Cottington County.
Make a motion to approve that.
Motion by Hatton.
Second.
By Van Duzen. Discussion.
Is this the data that's available on the MapNet?
That's what I was going to say. This is firstdistrictmapnet.org. This is the or firstdistrictmapnet.com. It is the Cottington County interactive map that you can look at and has data. Frankly, 9 out of 10 days over at the county zoning office, I don't even open my GIS project anymore. I use that. And partly so that people get used to looking at it too when they come in. I want to show them that you can look at this at home.
Yeah, so
You know, and the one thing I will say is that for those of you who do use it, and if you talk to people, chances are there's a layer, there's information out there on what it is they're looking for. We may not have it on there because it hasn't been asked. So don't be afraid to ask. I mean, if the worst that can happen is I say we just don't have it. It doesn't exist yet. But don't be afraid to ask to put it on there. One of the things that I don't have on there, which I frankly am a little ashamed of, I don't have the county zoning layer on there yet. But those are some of those things that would be easy to put on. And
yeah, that would be beneficial to see that. And just for the folks that may be watching at home or listening to this meeting, if they search for Cottington County MapNet in Google or whatever your search engine is, it'll come up, and there's a lot of good information on that website if you're curious.
And it will get better. I just heard that one of the military, was it the Air Force, launched a new satellite that will be dealing primarily with GIS, or global positioning, and it is a lot more precise with a lot more information, and that system is used worldwide. I mean, it's a very, very well-used system, and it's being improved from what it even is now. The other thing is $3,100. Is that the number?
Correct.
Okay. We've had some discussion. We have a motion and a second. And is there any more discussion? Commissioner Waterman, you're looking at me like you got a question. You don't, huh? Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Now, Luke, you can give us your year-end report.
Sure.
Commissioner Gable, I did email this to you earlier today.
Oh,
If
you
you
did?
wanted to
Okay.
put it up on the screen.
Dig it up.
Sorry, I was
That's all right.
going to remind you when you came in. You do all have a copy of it
This
also.
is the handout that,
Yeah.
one with the,
I do. I will, it's actually been a couple of years since I've gone through a year-end report. We had some things going on in the last couple of years as the year ended and focused on those things, so I had time to get back and get into a year-end report, and then frankly revamped it a lot. I threw in some charts that do some little bit of better job historically because I was running out of pages. I knew you'd be proud, Commissioner Gable. In going through this, I just want to go through just kind of hitting the highlights of what went on this year. County issued 130 building permits. That does include permits in the joint jurisdiction area. The estimated value of construction was a little over $11 million. We had 28 new houses, and so the fees, you can see what those were. $24,789 just generated from building permit fees. I can tell you the fees generated by building permits was up a little bit. It was up from previous years. That rests pretty heavily on the fact that we had 28 houses, whereas generally I'll issue permits for, it's kind of interesting because I've said this before, houses and building permits, it's kind of funny how we issue them. It's rare that we issue 25 building permits for houses, 24. It winds up being 19 or 28. We rarely ever go in that gap. It's funny, you'll see that on the annual building permits as well. So this year we had one of those higher years, just like we had in 2015, where we issued more houses as well.
share with us how you determine what a building permit costs.
Sure. The building permit cost is based upon the cost of the project, the total project cost, total building project cost. So, and it does stair-step its way down as the project gets higher. Once the project is above a certain number, it becomes $1 per $1,000 above that. And so it does. It's based on the total cost of the project. And frankly, that cost in the 15 years we've been doing this out of our office, that we haven't changed those building permit fees in that amount of time, because we've tried our best. While we do try and have this, and I'll point this out later on, we try to have this as a user fee generated, as opposed to trying to keep from dipping into the general fund as much as possible as we do this, and just have building permits and special permits pay for it. We've been largely able to just continue using that fee, that cost, the same fee schedule, except for on board permits. With regards to construction value, I just threw some charts up there to show you the numbers that are on there. The lowest year was 2004. Shouldn't shock anyone, because in 2004, we were, I don't believe, for a portion of that, I don't believe the county was charging for ag permits. Actually, I take that back. 2004 we were. That was the first full year, and that's why I included that into there. The high water year was 2008. The reason that was so high was because we had both Joy Ranch and a large dairy was permitted in that same year. That's why I kind of take that outlier out there. But I wanted to show you the high and the low. This year we're at 11.2. You can see that's higher. I used to work in in sales. I look at higher highs, lower lows. You can kind of see that trend line. If I start from 2004 and take a ruler and go to today, it really looks like it follows 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012 really closely as far as that trend line going forward into the future. So basically we trended about right. That averages from 2004 to 2018, a little over 3.25% increase annually up to that point, which is pretty close to inflation. So we're about right for the total dollar value. Building permits, and I'll stop getting into in depth. I geek out over this a little bit, but basically we stay in that, you can see within 5 of 126 building permits almost all the time. There are a few outliers into there, but largely we're in the 125 to 130 range every year. It's very interesting how that comes out.
It will change next year, probably.
It may, and we may have an outlier depending on eventually if wind towers get permitted, then that'll be an outlier, because we'll have an extra however many 50 that we haven't ever had before on top of that. Construction values, I just showed that chart to show what this year, from the standpoint of joint jurisdiction and the rest of the county. I've never shown this chart before because we never really had this in some of those. And so we're at, this year was the highest construction value in the joint jurisdiction area that we've had. The first 2 years, it was more in the neighborhood of about 15 to 20%. This year, last year, it was closer to 26%. This year, it was 28% of the construction value. I don't anticipate it getting much more than that into the future. That value comes a lot from the houses, because where we see houses happen more in this area, with the exception of some existing farmsteads. Permit fees then mirrored that, and it's actually funny because when I did this at the end of November, that gap was wider. It actually, building permit fees were 26% and construction value was 29%, and we issued 2 house permits in that last month, and that's what pulled that gap tighter. So. From a standpoint of board actions, I will go a little less in depth and more answer questions, but I just had one special meeting, processed 43 applications this year, and that reflects the total dollars that we received on special permits, that $7,000 mark, and in looking at that, need to understand as well, we have a base fee, and then we charge back for the cost of sending notices as well. A lot of that, not quite half of that, $7,000 is just reimbursement for sending letters out. So, I mean, it's really a pass-through, is really all it is. So when you look at this list here, the top part shows you, from a standpoint, breaking down joint jurisdiction versus the rest of the county, shows you where those were. Total of 36 variances, 7 in the joint jurisdiction area, 29 outside. And then it just shows you how they broke down into there. The bottom chart indicates just Board of Adjustment actions. And the main point I'm going to point out there, we had less Board of Adjustment actions this year. And that's a good thing. It says that people are following the rules. The main thing that I pointed out and talked to the board about is what I'm seeing is I'm seeing a lot of second permits on old farmsteads where they all needed to get a farmstead exemption in our first 10 years here because no one had ever formally gone through the board. I shouldn't say no one, but very few had formally gone through the board to get that permit. I think we're kind of, the ones that actually have houses there already, we're winnowing down, and now we're getting down to people who just want new ones. May become the new norm. The other part is, through a zoning ordinance, if you're issuing variances, you need to change the rule to make it legal to do what they're doing, or else quit issuing variances. I think that indicates that we're just getting out to a point where the farmstead exemption is something you can get. It's rare to get much else from a variance standpoint. The one thing that I will point out is I can't predict conditional uses. I don't know. We issued 6 conditional use permits this year, 20 last year, 9 the year before, 26 the year before. I've been trying for 10 years to figure out where that number is going to come in. I really get excited when the number, just to see what it is. I don't know how to predict it at this point. Conditional uses, for what it's worth, are ones that need a special board approval. Bottom line is, when it comes right down to it from a dollars and cents, I want to point out we wound up the total value that we took in for permits between the special board fees as well as the construction permits, $31,873.82. That was by my numbers. That is less than the cost, projected year-end cost, as I put things into there, by about $4,600. As we've said, generally we try to pay with those with user fees. Where the short end came is the good news, people are following rules. The bad news is that those fees weren't there from what we had last year. One thing I will say is that I'm reviewing, I believe the last time we increased Board of Adjustment fees, not building permit fees, but Board of Adjustment fees, was 8 or 9 years ago, when we went to $100 for a variance and $100 for a conditional use. I'm going to review and likely come with a proposal to increase those Board of Adjustment fees because those are the ones that frankly take more work than we have. We're reviewing, and the board kicked around the idea of whether or not we have had some big projects that absorb a lot of time. Frankly, maybe not hundreds of hours, but close to it. And we get $100 for that permit, and reviewing whether or not perhaps there's a percentage on the front end that could be held for equity on a project for building permits as well. If they don't do the project, we hold it. If they do the project, we just pay it toward their building permits. Something like that, just so that we can have that money at the time we're actually doing the work on the front end. Because once the conditional use permit's issued, then it's just verifying did they do what they said they'd do, which is a lot easier than the conditional use permit.
The intent isn't to gouge anyone, it's probably to bring it in line with the surrounding counties.
That was the other thing I was going to point out. A lot of the counties, I mean, we're at $100 per variance, and I'm not saying we got to do things the same way as other places, but part of what they do is they use the fee as a deterrence to apply for a variance. I know there's a county to our south in Hamlin County that increased their fee to $500 for a variance. I'm not advocating doing that, but I will say that we'll probably look at variances increasing, however, trying to keep maybe it's farmstead exemption at about the same price it is, because that's often either someone who didn't realize they had a problem or a young family trying to start out. But some of the other variances to have that higher, as well as conditional uses probably going up to $200 to $250, or else having that equity value. So those are the things we're looking at to try and make sure that we don't have a gap, that gap doesn't become something we get used to. Let's put it that way.
And on that percentage sort of thing, maybe that's on just the projects that are, the bigger projects rather than across the board. I don't know if we can do that or not.
Yeah, I think, I thought about that too, and we'll talk about it as we do it, but in the end, even if it's a small project, because if you're not doing any improvements to the property, you're not gonna have that. You know, say it's on an old outbuilding that's already out there that they're doing a home-based business, well, they're not gonna have anything, so it's not gonna be that. Whereas if they're gonna build a new building and we do 10% of the building permit value, it's an extra $20, you know, so in the end,
On an individual basis.
I don't think it's gonna kill them even if that does happen.
Right.
And so I just want to make sure that I want to be totally
Consistent.
clear that we're not trying to capture it and double dip on these
Right.
guys in those cases, because that's not what the intent would be. And don't get me wrong, that's not the proposal I've got at this point, because I've got to look at the numbers and also legality of doing that.
We had our planning and zoning meeting yesterday, and just to give you some heads up, the next thing on the plate for that committee is to review the ordinance dealing with capitals. And remember we said a year or two ago that we would visit all the ordinances, and that's what we're doing. We plowed through the wind, and now we're about to dive into the capital. So I think you'll find that you're going to be asked to attend some of our meetings as a full board, so that you're well informed as to what we're doing as a committee.
We'll get into it more in depth, but basically the idea is that treating the remainder of the county commissioners that aren't on that planning commission is, and I'm going to say ex officio members of the planning commission, but basically so that you're involved in the same discussion. Obviously, the votes on drafts and things like that to move forward are of the planning commission, but basically so you're sitting at the same table if you want to be there and have the
It's
conversation.
non-voting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, to do it
Good
that way
idea.
at that
Yeah.
point.
Good idea.
That way you're involved in the discussion instead of having to come up and do that.
And we hope that we don't end up with any of those marathon meetings that go till midnight or
Or the,
1 in the morning.
There's
I
been a
bet
lot
you
of
they'll
groundwork
happen.
too, that survey that.
Exactly.
A year ago, so that's some significant groundwork that's begun, really effectively has begun the public
Yeah.
discussion.
Yeah.
When you think about it.
We'll start with a policy discussion and meetings and update on, and remind everyone of what we did find in those, as well as the surveys that were out there and that, and kind of work our way down to, start wide, work our way down. We're gonna, analogies, start at 30,000 feet. Hopefully by the first meeting, we'll be down to 10,000 feet, and then by the second meeting, we'll be down to the 200-foot level. That's kind of the goal.
Yep. Any more questions for Luke? My only parting comment would be is that we really appreciate all the work that First District does for us. I don't know how these other counties do this without having someone like them to lean on, and maybe they do more than I know. But we certainly appreciate what they do for us, and they've helped us throughout the past few years that I've been involved. Been very, very good about providing information and direction. So thank you, Luke, and I share that with Todd and the rest
Will
of the
do.
crew.
Thanks.
Thank
Luke.
you very much.
Good report.
Thanks, Luke.
Appreciate it.
Merry Christmas. Okay, let's go on then to number 11, discussion possible action to authorize the chair to sign a letter of intent for installation of fire control sprinklers throughout the courthouse. That letter that was written is in your packet, and is there anyone that has any thoughts, comments in reference to this?
Well, Mr.
Lee,
Chairman.
go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion that we authorize the chairman to sign this letter, contingent on state's attorney approval. I just haven't heard back from her yet. I don't think it's going to be controversial because it's just a letter of intent. So you can see what it is there. But the idea here is that that the fire marshal would have this information that we intend to install install sprinklers throughout the rest of the courthouse. So as people know, we're currently just about to finish the project where we're installing sprinklers to include the water supply to the building in the basement and the first floor, which is in conjunction. It's another project in conjunction with the courthouse remodel, and then to take those sprinklers throughout the courthouse. So this is a statement of that intent. As you know, we budgeted some funds for that for 2019. what this does is it allows us to save money on the alarms because each sprinkler head effectively acts as an alarm. So you don't have to put in as many of the electrical or electronic alarms. And I guess there's already some dialogue with the electricians and the fire alarm providers based upon, because the fire marshal, I had him look at the text and he's fine with this text. So I'd make that motion. I just haven't heard back from the state's attorney yet, but so that we don't have to take it up again, I'd make the motion that we.
I'll
Before we
second
second
that.
that, would you read that motion back to us?
Motion by Gable to authorize the chair to sign a letter of intent to the fire marshal contingent on the state's attorney's approval.
Thank you for
I'll
summarizing
second
that.
that.
I'll take a second.
Can I,
Second by Hatton.
can I add to the text of the motion that the letter of intent is to install.
Are you all right with that change?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fire suppression sprinklers throughout this courthouse. Does that say that in what you wrote down,
It
Cindy?
says installation of fire control sprinklers throughout the courthouse. That's
Yeah,
on,
that, yeah,
right
just do
on
that one.
there.
Yeah, just, okay, just, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
on number 11. That's pretty much what it
So
says.
we got her now.
Yep.
All right. Good. Any more discussion?
So Lee, this basically gives Fire Marshal Primus permission to meet with contractors to begin that
Yeah.
process.
They already have the discussion, but this allows him to
Plan
comfortably
and
say.
propose.
This is a
yeah.
formality.
Okay, all
That's
right.
all it is,
got it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Contingent also on the state's
Yeah.
attorney's approval.
Yeah.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing no more discussion, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign, the motion carries. Let's go on to number 12, action to approve change orders for courthouse remodel project. Commissioner Waterman, do you have these? All right,
Does.
go ahead, Gable.
All right, Mr. Chairman. So two change orders today. One is the one we took up 2 weeks ago for the finish changes where it was mostly taking out wallpaper and putting in paint, and so that was an effective savings of $10,000 and some dollars. What the easiest thing for them to do was simply to revise that change order. So it's change order number, let's see, it's number 18A on the top, it says up on the upper right, and just to revise that from 18 to 18A, and then include in that quote from the painting subcontractor to retouch the existing woodwork. So basically, that adds back into the project $4,840 plus tax, basically. So that change order goes from being a credit of $10,000 and some to a credit of $5,780. So that's the motion for that change order, and that's change order 18A.
We handle them separately.
Yes.
And I'll second that.
We
I
have a
did go
motion
down
by,
and
Gable, second by
Yeah.
Hatton.
I looked
Yeah,
at
I
the
have-
woodwork and it's,
Yeah, and
I'm glad we decided to do that.
Yeah,
Yes,
that
we did
so the
it.
painter was just thinking, he just thought, he had looked at it, and he thought you guys might want us to propose
Yeah,
that during one of the construction meetings.
yeah, there's,
There's a lot of damage to
Are you
pictures.
clear with the motion?
My motion is going to be based on what it says here, because if I included everything that Commissioner Gable said,
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm giving too much explanation.
it would
Yeah.
be pretty wordy.
Yeah.
We'd have to kill another tree, right?
He always has the right to ask me to change it once I send the minutes out.
He has a
It's-
right
it's
to
pretty
express
clear with the
himself,
motion.
sure,
Yes,
right?
yes, but I mean,
I-
my motion, when I write it down, is going to be based on what
That's fine.
the document from.
That's all I meant. I
from
just
Mills-
was trying to explain
I
it to
know,
people.
and I'm going to
Do you want to add these pictures to it, too?
I'm going to abbreviate it, no.
That's kind of.
You want to look at a picture?
That's good. That's a sample of what it looks like.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. That's a good picture. That's
Yeah.
one a lot of us understand there.
Yeah, and then what the painter gave a sample of what he did on that corner there. That's what it would look like when he's finished. So the left side of the picture.
yeah,
so-
they'll get that paint off from the
Yeah.
inside lips and then on the top ledge. I wasn't
Yeah, the
tall
top
enough
ledge
to
is
see,
terrible,
but
yeah.
I couldn't see it.
Yeah.
You didn't have a ladder there for
What
me to
about
crawl on.
any wood that has like dents and stuff in it from furniture?
They-
How do they
They
replace
can
that?
fill that.
They
They
can,
fill
okay.
it, yeah. If it's.
I noticed a
it's one
few
of the worst
spots
ones.
down there.
Anyway, that's it. Over the years, that woodwork has gotten extremely beat up, and that's probably one of the worst spots there.
Well, it sounds like years ago they had people from the detention center paint, so
Yeah, maybe that was it. I don't know. but whatever.
I painted it with a rake.
Yeah.
But
It was done.
they're very
without
gracious.
spending
When I went down to take a look at what was proposed, they took the plastic down and showed me, and I didn't realize that woodwork was in that tough a shape.
Yeah, I didn't either.
But it was really beat up, you know, and I guess you just don't see that. All right, we have a motion and a second with pictures, visual, to back up the motion. Is there any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, that motion carries. So then there's another one.
Yeah, there's another one there. And if you want to see this table shows kind of the end result here. So there's two columns on the table. I'm going to put it. I can put that up there. This is all dealing with the court IT. So the court administrator, Jenny Hamrick, offered to take another look at all the list of the IT, which is somewhere between $70,000 and $80,000 part of the project. The nice thing is we can use our law library funds to pay for that, so it's not tax money, it's court fee money. But this would reduce that amount because they went through and thought, well, for the time being, there's several items that we don't need, and you can see what they are in the change order. So this is change order number 19. So PR 19, it says on the upper right. What this change order doesn't do is remove, say, the plug and play ability. So if at some later point they want to add the components that they're taking off the project now, they can do that.
It'll be wired in basically
Yeah,
and
yeah,
ready, it's just
so the
they
conduit, the
don't
wire
need it.
is there. So and they just don't anticipate using, some of this stuff is so new that the court's not in the habit of using it yet, so they recommend taking it off. And this is, just so people understand, a county's responsibility is to provide court space, even though the court system is the one that uses it. And so I appreciated the fact that the court wanted to take one last look and see if there was anything they could take off the list, and so that's what this is. And so the credit would be for $8,580, so my motion would be that we approve that change order.
I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Motion by Gable, second by Hatton. Any discussion? Now, my question is that bottom line on that change order is then $59.45, right?
59, no.
That's the
Is that the
balance.
number?
Isn't that the balance after you take?
No, that's the balance. So here you can.
Yeah.
So the left column is basically the balance of the change orders. So where it says adjustments at the top of the column that the county is dealing with taxpayer money, basically. So right now we're in the black, a little over $8,900. And then on the right side are items that can be covered by using the law library fund, which is a court fee, a fund made up of court fees. And so that would be in the black. With this change order, would be in the black by a little over $5,900. So.
All right. Thank you for the clarification. Any other questions? Any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
And you will let the contractor know that
Yeah.
these have been approved?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Then let's go on to action to transfer commission contingency to budgets as state law requires, 721-6.1. And what do we need to transfer or reimburse this month?
The three budgets that we have previously reimbursed are in need again, and then the ag building budget. So the court-appointed attorney budget needs $11,440.79. The coroner budget, $1,786.74. Board of Mental Illness budget, $2,580.12. And the ag building budget, $14,141.09, for a total of $29,948.74, which will leave the commissioner's contingency funds at $167,704.26.
Move to approve those.
Have a motion by Hatton,
Second.
second by Gable.
Cindy, what was the total again? 29,000.
948.74.
$29,948.74.
Thank you.
Okay. And actually, we're getting close enough to the end of the year. That should just about,
That should finish it. I don't anticipate anything more The ag building budget went over basically because of that extra work we did when we did the roof. The court-appointed attorney budget, the coroner budget, and the Board of Mental Illness budget were all based on
Service.
claims that we had to pay.
And we
Did,
still have 167.
But we still have 167,000, but that, goes away at the end of the year as unused.
Well, it's just a matter of whether you have to use surplus cash
Right.
or not. so.
South Dakota law allows us to carry a 5% contingency, which we never carry that much. The department heads budget very well and rarely go over their budget unless there's, something extreme that comes through during the year.
Like the ag building with the
Yes,
roof, I mean,
yes.
those sorts of things. you
Well, those
can't-
3 budgets, we don't know. I mean,
Tho-
how
those
many
are-
claims we're
yep.
going to have?
Those are
State's
just
attorney or coroner?
they're
we just
based
don't
on
know.
estimates of the
Yeah.
previous year. They could go up, they could go down, so.
Everyone here, I'm sure, gets the magazine from NACO. Did you read that article in this last issue in reference to indigent burials and how the budgets nationwide have been affected by what's happening? And it all boils back down to drugs. But the coroner's budget, which, like we say, we have no control over. We just have to, it's a guesstimate what we have, and some of those are in the millions of dollars in some of these counties.
Well, the coroner is unattended death.
Unattended deaths that may
unattended death.
require an autopsy.
Autopsies, too.
And those are very expensive. They're usually
Yeah.
$2,500 or more.
But they're still non-predictable.
They are.
We have no idea, you
They
know? And so it's just those things that we have to deal with, and people don't understand that when we build a budget, we certainly have to think about, the trends, and our trend has been up. And I'm sure it will probably continue up. Everything we see and talk about is a lot of unattended deaths, and I think there's probably one of the things that you really see in the news now is if your buddy's dying from an overdose, you can call it in and not be responsible. And
Yeah.
people are afraid to do that yet. They're still afraid to let their buddy die. Well, then it ends up, it's an unattended death, and then there's an autopsy required, and all of these things trickle down to our budget.
It was
Wow.
something that I had never really even thought about, but like in New York City, all those people they find on the streets, they have a certain place that they take all them. I can't remember what it was called, but these are people that are just unknown, so they
Yeah.
take them there and
They
take
bought,
care of them. And
well, they ran out of room now, so they're cremating these, but they bought like, 1.2 acres or 2.1 acre or something like that, and have a plot. I suppose back in Wide Earp days, what was that called, the Boot Hill, or?
Well, doesn't
Yes.
Minnehaha County still
Yeah,
have their
yeah.
own cemetery that they use for indigents?
Yeah.
Did I send you that survey that came out
Yes, you did.
from the funeral home directors on the costs for
Yes.
burials across the state?
Yeah, that was interesting, that information that
Actually, it was on what each county is paying.
Is
It
paying,
did not say what the county's, costs had been for the year, but it reflected
and
how
I
much
hope,
each
I
county
hope
pays.
everyone noted that Cotton County was the highest. We support our funeral homes with the most dollars of any county in the state of South Dakota, far and above,
Per burial.
per burial. Yep.
It would have been interesting to see what each county had paid for the year.
Yes, yeah.
That would have been another, but the funeral home probably doesn't have that information, but the Welfare Association.
I was surprised, I would say, that would be the term I would use, that Roberts County was not too far behind Coddington, so Roberts County is right there, but there's a lot of them, $1,000, that's it. You get $1,000, you do what you can with it, so. All right, we're kind of off the beaten trail here. So we have a motion
And a second.
and a second. Any more discussion? Pertinent to the motion. Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Let's go to number 14, action to approve claims for payment. We have payroll, of course.
Payroll claims for the month of December include longevity payments to employees. The county has a policy where if you have 6 continuous years of service to the county, you start earning a longevity payment. These payments range anywhere from $100 to a maximum of $900. It's paid out once a year in December. If you have, the unions actually negotiated an extra amount last year for the longevity, before our longevity capped at $625 if you had been here 25 years or more. And with that union negotiation, the board chose to increase the longevity schedule to 30-plus years. You would receive $900. So the total that we pay out for longevity in the month of December is $16,155. And that is included in the total amount of the salaries we paid out of $544,364.57.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Van Dusen, second by Gable. Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Let's go to 15. Action to approve automatic budget supplements.
I have nothing for today.
That's what we like to hear. Thank you. 16, action to approve personnel changes. We have a couple of them.
2 of those. The first one is for the Chief Correctional Officer, Matt Blackwelder. The sheriff has recommended moving him to step 8 on the payroll scale, which I have already prepared the 2019 payroll scale based on what you have previously approved of the 2% increase. So Matt would go to step 8, $27.47 an hour. And then we have a new hire recommended by the highway superintendent, Mitch Kalhoff, in the maintenance 2 position. He'll start at step 1, $18.08 per hour.
Move to approve.
A motion by Van Dusen, second by Gable. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I don't see any travel requests.
Nothing today.
What about old business? Any mature business we need to discuss?
Mr. Chairman, just
Yes.
one update on the South Dakota Association of County Commissioners resolution about being able to authorize counties to ask voters for a half-penny sales tax when it comes time to build a jail and a courthouse. Been having discussions with legislators. One legislator suggested adding to that mix recidivism reduction facilities, and so talking about that. So this particular guy might be a prime sponsor. So looking at that, so that's part of the discussion now, and I think that kind of. My first reaction to that is that's a good compliment, because it kind of goes hand in glove with, giving a way to try to manage the population of a jail, if there's infrastructure required to do that, and encouraging that. So that's kind of what's going on with that right now. And then there's a JDAI meeting today at noon at the high school, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that, and JDAI stands for Juvenile Detention Alternative Initiative, and so that involves the state court system, UJS, and the high school, police department, city, sheriff, jail. So another community effort on reducing incarceration.
Okay. Anything else for old business?
I guess on the transitional housing side, we're just still waiting to finalize some of those leases and subleases, and then I'll keep you informed as to where we're going after that.
I don't know. I think, yeah, go ahead, Lee.
I'm sorry, were you done, Commissioner?
Yeah.
I just thought of one other old business item on the jail healthcare issue that we've been talking about. So the sheriff and I have been meeting with folks. I mean, it's mostly the sheriff's leading the charge on trying to figure this one out, and I've been kind of tagging along. But so we're having a meeting today about one possibility. We had a meeting with Brown Clinic just to kind of start fleshing out some of the options. Also looking at talking to Minnehaha County was kind enough to furnish their how they came up with their RFP that provides their jail health care. These RFPs are among the most complicated RFPs you can issue. So may or may not, we'll have to determine. We're trying to figure out if that's a good idea to go that route, or simply to do something, what seems a bit more simple, but on the other hand, doing an RFP can be very comprehensive and gives you, the idea would be that you could hire somebody or contract with some kind of correctional health care company that would just be that central point of contact as you deal with both, medical stuff and behavioral health stuff. So that's what's going on with that one right now.
Well, that's good. I hope that you progress. I know I'm getting pushed a little bit from HS, Human Service Agency, in reference to getting back to them as to what we would like to do with that situation there.
It's kind of a major research project right now. I mean, so.
Yeah. Do you have any idea when something will be resolved, or?
I'd say
It's going to be, like I say, there's a lot of homework that's going into this before we can decide what direction we want to go. So kind of build the program a little bit more.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're trying not to reinvent the wheel is kind of the idea. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
Also for old business, just as a reminder, the courthouse will be closed obviously next Monday and Tuesday, and then the following week, Monday and Tuesday, just
Correct.
so people can prepare for those closures.
Old business, I don't think well, maybe I did, was it a week or 2 weeks ago, I did attend the South Dakota Retirement Board meeting. Anybody that has a radio or TV has seen what the market has been doing lately. The stock market has just been getting beat to death, and luckily by law we are required to maintain 100%, and we are. Thank goodness for some very, very sharp, very, very good investors in the South Dakota Investment Company that had planned on these types of things happening, and went into this strong in cash and not quite so strong in the stock market, which was good. That was a good deal there. My term is up on that board. I fulfilled the requirements of Elmer had just been elected to that board for a 4-year term or 3-year term, 4-year term now, when he lost the election, and that board, when you lose election, you're immediately off the board. And so I was appointed to finish out his term, and in 2019, that will be the end of his term, or that term. And I plan on throwing my hat in again. I just will give you a heads up that that's my plans at this time. Anything else for old business? How about new business? Anything new? Yeah, Lee?
One quick thing, Mr. Chairman. So tomorrow we're going to have a high school government class, this time from Great Plains in the courthouse, looking at the jail, probably coming here toward the end of the potluck and having a few goodies. Just
Good.
Give them some chocolate.
That's good. And again, like I said last week, I'd encourage these government classes in our schools, to come up and see what we do. Just see how hard Cindy works. That's, a lot of people take everything that she does for granted, so.
I did attend the executive board meeting this past week also. We do have the dates set, and I don't know if you have them in your calendars, for our spring workshop and our fall workshop, which will both be in Pierre. So the spring workshop is March 13th and 14th. And then the fall workshop will be September 16th and 17th.
What was that date again?
September 16th and 17th. They're both in Pierre. We possibly may be going to Sioux Falls in 2020 just because of some things that have arose. So we're going to see. That's something we'll be having further discussion on. But both of them will be in Pierre this year. So mark
Right,
them
thank
in your
you.
calendars, because that's something we
Open.
talked about. It's very important for, you may not think you get much out of the sessions, but just the networking with other commissioners and having those discussions is very valuable in
Yeah. I would agree.
a lot of on a lot of levels, so, and building those relationships is a good thing, so.
It's really fun to find out that we're all in the same church, just different pews, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Did you
And,
say
some people solve problems differently than we do, and it's good to hear
Which
that.
one?
September?
March?
September 16th and 17th?
Yes.
Over Tuesday? Okay.
Yeah, Monday, Tuesday.
And if anybody has an idea, something that they would like to learn more about, be certain to get to the executive committee or to Bob out at Pier and share with them, you know, I'd like to learn more about this or whatever it happens to be, so they can, you know, work on that and find a presenter that would bring it to all of us. So that's what this is all about.
Something that we also discussed, which is good, for any new commissioners going, sometimes just having that mentor person maybe, or having special sessions for them just on how to run a meeting, you know, just something a little different for them to sit through rather than what the rest of us have all kind of done. That might be a little more beneficial for them too. So it's just things that we're hashing over.
Not a bad deal for some of us old timers now, too.
Right. Yeah.
Brenda, we're starting to be old timers now.
Right.
All right, anything else for the open? What's the social calendar look like?
Well,
A lot of
obviously.
Christmas activities coming.
Yes,
We'll be
tomorrow is
here.
our potluck here
Yep.
at the courthouse, 11 to whenever. This afternoon, Steph Miller is a retirement party over in Brookings. There's going to be the program at 3. Deanna Dumke's funeral, her visitation is tonight, I believe, from 5 to 7, and then the funeral is tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., the Catholic Church down there. I don't know, I think that's kind of all I have for, and our commissioner meeting will be next Thursday, the 27th.
Lee?
I don't know, I don't have anything.
This last thing to add to the calendar, there's another courthouse remodel progress meeting that's at 11 a.m. in the remodel space on the 20th, so this Thursday. So if anybody wants to, and commissioners might, sometimes commissioners, like besides me, like to come see.
On the shiny side, bright side of it, right behind me is a whole bunch of goodies that was delivered this morning from Glacial Lake Ethanol. So we want to be certain to thank them for their Christmas goodie bag here. And there's no way that we, as a board, well, I could probably take a pretty good dent out of that myself, but I probably better not. But I think we're going to just put some of that in the refrigerator and share it for our potluck tomorrow so everybody can participate in it. Cindy, is that kind of a, whatever we get? But we could dive into it a little bit now after the meeting if you
Definitely,
wish.
yeah, definitely.
I know that watermelon's looking pretty good back here.
Surprised you aren't rushing the meeting a little more.
Yeah. Hint, hint. Anything else for the open? Seeing that, I do have a request, like I mentioned before, for an executive session, and they'll be dealing with number 1, discussion of personnel issue, and then number 4, preparing for negotiation and employees and employee contracts.
Make a motion to go into executive session.
Motion by Hatton to go into executive session, a second by Gable. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are in executive session. Thank you. And there will not be any action after we come out of executive session. So thank you, press, for being so diligent and being here.